What's up everyone, Tommy with Studio Sense here. Thanks for stopping by to check out today's video. I have a first impressions video of a brand new release. Been waiting on it for a while, finally got my hands on it. If you're a fan of Jean-Paul Gaultier's Le Male series, you're really going to enjoy this one because it is Le Male Elixir, the new flanker of the very popular line. So I've got that and more coming up, so stay tuned. Welcome back everyone. Today is a first impressions video of a brand new release. This is a fairly big release in the world of men's fragrance because it's been around, A, it's been around for a while, B, it's been a very popular kind of go-to fragrance line for those who like to go clubbing, for those who like to go out for a night on the town, for guys that just woke up in their dorm and have to go straight to class because they're late and they spray this on. The fragrance, of course, that I'm referring to is the uber popular fragrance by Jean-Paul Gaultier. This is the original Le Male, and of course, just like any fragrance similar to Le Male, like other fragrances that are popularized by the brand from which they come, like Azzaro Chrome or Giorgio Armani's Acqua di Gio, there are many flankers in this particular line that you could point to and say, well, I like this one, or I like this one for various reasons. In fact, one of the most recent flankers is a really good tropical fragrance called Le Beau. If you like coconut, if you like tropical, look to that fragrance. You'll really enjoy it. Normally, I delve into a little bit, at least, of the history of the fragrance, the previous flankers, kind of compare them. I'm not going to do that in this video because I think I'm going to just get into the meat of the fragrance, let you know what it looks like, what it smells like. It has not quite been released in the US, and so hopefully this video will help you decide whether or not when it does come out, you'll want to purchase it or not. So before we do anything else in typical fashion, let's take a quick look at that presentation. Just like all the previous Le Male flankers, this one comes in a can. It is gold and a dark maroon stripe goes around the top and the bottom of the can. In that maroon color on the plate on the front, it says Jean-Paul Gaultier Le Male Elixir. There is no information anywhere else on the can except for the very bottom. Of course, it has the address information, it has the size, there is a QR code in the middle. Below that is a UPC. Around the circumference of the bottom is additional information along with a batch code of 30881. The bottle maintains that gold and dark maroon theme. It's got a strange metallic feel to the gold portion. It's almost like they took a tiny gold wire and just wrapped it around over and over again until it filled the areas in which it's showing gold. That's kind of how it feels tactile wise. And then of course you've got your dark maroon glass. Now you can see through the glass pretty much if you hold it up to a light. You can't actually fully see through the bottle, but you can see that the glass is this dark maroon color. And of course the pin is in the top of the atomizer to prevent it from accidentally spraying. When you pull the pin, you're able to then spray the atomizer, which is also gold. By the way, this is a 75 ml bottle because I couldn't get the 125, which is the typical size because they were all sold out. This is all that they had, so that's why I got the 75 ml bottle. But I do actually kind of like this size, specifically for if you want to take it with you and be mobile with it. It's a lot easier to carry this way. But anyway, I got this out because this one actually kind of reminds me a little bit of it, in fact. And this is probably the most popular Le Male flanker, and that is Ultra Male. So Ultra Male, at least right now, in my estimation, is still the most popular flanker. Is Le Male Elixir going to change all of that? Well, we'll talk a little bit about that. Now that we've looked at the presentation, what about the notes that make up the fragrance? What are the notes that are formulated to create Le Male Elixir? Le Male Elixir features top notes of lavender and mint, with heart notes of benzoin and vanilla, resting on a base of honey, tobacco, and tonka beans. So there you have it. We've got lavender and mint in the open, in the top. In the heart, we've got storax or styrax, sometimes known as styrax balsam, better known as benzoin and vanilla. And in the base, we've got honey, tobacco, and tonka beans. What a fantastic trio. See, that base is what's really kind of exciting me. Now, we didn't have that information when this was first announced, so I didn't get too excited. As time went on and they finally released the information as far as, and I'm hoping that that's all the published notes. There may be more, but these are the primary ones. Then I allowed myself to get a little bit excited because I really like that trio, specifically in the base. So what does it look like when it sprays? Let me show you guys that. Now, the only thing about the 75 ml bottle that's a little bit iffy in terms of the presentation is the pen is kind of stiff. Like, it's really hard to pull out, and I feel like after repeated motion like that it might loosen this somehow, because this just screws off and on. The actual atomizer pump screws onto the top of the bottle. Hopefully that won't be an issue, but that's just something to keep in mind when you're pulling it off and on. Maybe leave it off if you know you're going to be using it over a period of time, or leave it off for good. You know, if it's sitting on the shelf and there's no chance of it getting accidentally pushed. This is what it looks like coming out of the atomizer. So while it's not pressurized, it's a decently high quality atomizer and pump in the actual bottle. So I do like that. So right off the bat, what you learn about L'Uomo Elixir is that it is a cool weather fragrance. Okay, it's not a summer banger. It seems that a lot of houses are releasing cooler weather fragrances, and here it is summertime. So I don't know if they timed that way, or if that's a little bit off in the timing there, but regardless, it's a wonderfully smelling fragrance just out of the atomizer. To me, it's fairly linear. There doesn't seem to be a lot of finite parsing when it comes to this coming to the foreground and then receding, this coming to the foreground and then receding, each having its own kind of solo play, you know, like a band at a concert. They're not each kind of getting their own little turn and then moving on and then all coming together at the end. That's not really happening here. So it's fairly linear fragrance, and that's not necessarily bad news. Actually, it's definitely a heavier version, and it's following the, you know, it's following that kind of trend that I'll be talking about more of this new edition of what's happening in men's fragrance. It's going to be coming up in the next day or so. I'll talk a little bit more about the sweet syrupy trend that is currently trending in men's fragrance, and it actually follows in L'Uomo Elixir, which makes it very relevant in terms of when it's released and how and why. So it definitely opens up showing all of its cards, right? So you get that lavender, that little bit of mint that kind of sort of acts like a spicy version of ginger, the way ginger, you know, lifts and kind of creates a volume, you know, in a fragrance and carries it. Mint is kind of doing that in the open. So you get this very spicy, very high quality lavender in the open, immediately moving into that kind of sweet, lightly resinous benzoin vanilla combination. So you get that kind of syrupy sweet. L'Uomo Elixir throws down its best hand early. You know, it has a full house early on with the benzoin and vanilla combo. And then in the base, that's what I think most people want to hear about, is what about the honey and the tobacco? You know, is it like Naxos? Is it like Pure Havane? No, it is not like that. Unfortunately, in the base, you can't really tell that there's this huge infusion of tobacco, this very strong tobacco, and this sweet melodic honey in the base. What you get though, and this is in the dry down, and this is after a while, so even though this is a first impressions, I have worn it long enough to tell you this, and that is when you're in the final dry down after about 30 or 40 minutes wearing the fragrance, that is when that light, warm, sweet combination of honey and tobacco comes to the foreground, and you actually are able to tell that there's actual tobacco in this fragrance. It is not as viable and as there as it is even in Dolce & Gabbana's The One EDP, The One Eau de Parfum, which has tobacco in the base, and it's very palpable to the nose, readily palpable. This one is a little bit sneakier. It's a little bit, it kind of taunts itself in between the sweet creamy of the vanilla and the tonka, and the sweet warm resin. It's in between those sweeter notes and that benzoin, the warmth of the benzoin, is when you get that tobacco. And then of course, honey is just this smooth and a very light essence of warm sweetness, but it's all part of the whole syrupy sweet which this isn't overly sweet. Now, I've used those words sweet and syrupy enough to where you're probably thinking, I don't want that fragrance. It sounds like it's overly sweet. It's not. It's really not. It's slightly sweeter than Le Male Parfum. This one is appropriately an elixir, right? You expect elixirs to be heavier and have more weight, more density, and more sweetness, but it is not at all as sweet as, say, 1 million elixir is, which is almost too sweet. It almost crosses that threshold. It doesn't, and I love it, but this isn't nearly as sweet as 1 million elixir, so you might be happy to know that. But it is a sweet, cool weather fragrance. It's definitely going to be kind of a more winter-oriented kind of fragrance. Can you wear it, in other kinds of weathers? Well, absolutely. You can definitely wear it in the cooler days of spring. You can wear it in fall and autumn, obviously, as the weather is turning colder. And even in summer, you can wear it in the cooler nights of summer or your date nights. As long as you're not doing an outdoor activity where you're going to be sweating a lot, you don't want a heavier, sweeter fragrance on you. Fragrances like Invictus Victory, Elixir, or Le Male Elixir. You don't want any kind of elixir in warmer weather, where it's hot, where you're going to be sweating and you're going to be physical anyway. This one I would definitely categorize as a cooler weather fragrance. Perhaps not a winter specific fragrance, but definitely cooler weather fragrance. I do like it. I think it's a more mature version of Le Male, similar to Le Male Parfum. I think it finds its happy place somewhere between Ultra Male and Le Male Parfum, in between these. So it's kind of almost like a gradient right in the middle. It has the sweetness and the verve and the kick and the get up and go of Ultra Male, but it has the maturity of Le Male Parfum. And that's kind of where it finds its point of grace, as it were. I like it. I think it's really a nice version to have and to own. I am one of those that is into the sweeter fragrances, the sweeter, a little bit more heavy, and wintertime or cool weather is my jam when it comes to fragrances anyway, because I really like the Oriental fougères, the incense heavy kind of fragrances. You could call benzoin an incense. It's very similar, benzoin Siam or Styrax or Storax. They're all kind of sort of related to a degree. It still has that sexy appeal to it, of course. That vanilla and tonka mixes so well with that lavender mint open. It's all kind of there together again. It reveals its whole hand all at once. You don't pick apart too many of the notes, but the end result is just an extremely well done version of Le Male. I think Ultra Male is still my favorite and my go-to of the line, but I will definitely be giving Elixir a lot of wear in cooler weather, potentially over the little bit more rough and mature Le Male Parfum. Well guys, that's it for my first impressions of Jean Paul Gaultier's Le Male Elixir. I hope that you enjoyed watching it. If you already have this fragrance, if you were one of the lucky ones to get it early, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Or if you're looking forward to it, or tell me what your favorite flanker is in the Le Male line. I'd like to know what your thoughts are there as well. Again, thanks so much for stopping by to check out today's first impressions. As always, thank you so much for your continued support on my channel. I'm Tommy with Studio Sense, and I'll see you tomorrow.